Are you loving evangelicalish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @evangelicalish or subscribe on YouTube by searching evangelicalish. That's evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now back to the Evangelicalish podcast. Welcome in. It is Evangelicalish. We are right smack dab in the middle of season 3. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Paul.
And I'm April.
Hey, we nailed it except for the part where I wasn't watching to make sure Paul wasn't taking a giant sip.
I was mid-coffee.
Yeah.
I had to choke that down quickly.
I apologize. I'm Paul. That's all right. That's all good. We at least got the order right this week. Good to see everybody. As you're hopping in, let us know.
The comments are awesome already.
Yeah,
look at Lori. She's like signed a lease for an apartment and gets to watch us. It's a great day.
Oh, what
That's
a good
awesome.
day. That's fantastic, Lori. Much love. Let us know where you're at tonight. I'm sure you're all over the country. Let us know where you are. Of course, we're Oklahoma, Tennessee, and California is where we're at this evening. 3 time zones, which is good. And so anyway, we have a packed episode tonight. I don't want to wait too long. Is that the famous April from that Ben Shapiro video? It is indeed. So
guilty.
This week was kind of a crazy week for the Evangelicalish crew. The former lead singer for Zoe Girl and the lead singer for Skillet put me on blast on a podcast this week. But to be outdone, April ended up on the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro calling her out for her liberal antics.
I think the word he used was insanely woke TikTok.
Insanely woke TikTok. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Here's the deal, guys. Ben Shapiro is the smart conservative. So
the smartest guy in the room.
He's the smart. He is lauded by conservatives as the smartest guy in the room. And
he's a douchebag.
Has no problem doing math, such as 4 years of Trump and a 4-year-old child and, all of these kinds of things. So it was definitely an interesting start to our week. And we'd be remiss. We've got an awesome guest tonight and we'll get to that in a second, but we would be remiss if we didn't at least do a drive-by to the drive-bys that happened for us here on the Evangelicalish crew. April, what was that like? I mean, would you just get a text from somebody?
So someone from TikTok messaged me and it went to my message request and I don't always see those. So I just happened to click it because it was a link. And so I was like, hey, I think you're on Ben Shapiro's show, and sent me the YouTube link. And so I had to sit through the first eight and a half minutes of the Ben Shapiro show because I didn't know when I was going to come on, which was awful. So I want my 8 minutes back. But yeah, so
demand a refund.
That same stupid video where I talk about how my daughter called the American flag the Dumbo Trump flag and how it was profound, just the symbolism of the flag, blah, blah, blah. The ones that conservatives freaked out on like a few weeks ago where I mentioned it. Ben Shapiro was like, well, maybe you should have introduced your daughter to the flag before Trump. It's like, that one's on you. And then
that's on you.
Yeah, but you got to put the bagel farther back in your throat. Like, I'm Ben Shapiro.
That's on you.
If I just talk really, really fast, I just go really fast. I sound a little bit like a Lilliputian and really smart.
That's actually pretty good.
It just sounds like he half swallowed a bagel and it's kind of stuck in there. And he's trying to talk with the bagel stuck half in his throat, but he talks really fast. So.
Is it a mixture between half bagel and like a lifelong smoker who's like, I am Ben Shapiro?
But it's also nasally too. He's like, and that one's on you.
Yeah, but it was the Oompa Loompa thing for me, right?
Yeah,
and that's on you. I was like, what are you doing, you weirdo?
And then I had somebody on my page say, well, he's really smart. I'm like, come on, nobody watches Ben Shapiro because he's smart. They watch him because he's a snarky douchebag. Number 2 douchebag in America, I say.
Oh, well, but hold on. You can't make claims like that without giving us your number 1 there,
Don
Paul.
Jr. Don Jr. hands down.
Man, I don't know.
Don Jr. doesn't have his own show, though.
Shapiro's been on the scene for a long time and owns his own media outlet.
I don't know, but he's not killing animals in Africa and taking pictures of it.
Yeah.
That's like Paige Patterson, who used to be the president at Southwest Baptist Theological Seminary for the BGC or for the SBC. He goes and like kills giraffes and crap like that. Yeah. What a horrible human. Anyway.
I think actually Shannon said earlier in the chat that she just got engaged yesterday. So congratulations. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
But to your point, I actually was really disappointed because one of my old worship pastors commented about how much he disagreed. Well, he disagreed with Shapiro on the video with me because I shared it, but that he generally agrees with him and thinks he's really intelligent. And my heart just kind of sank. It's like, no,
that's always the argument.
Don't do that.
They think Ben Shapiro is so smart. And I have a joke with one of my friends who is, a really close friend of mine. And he's like, we'll just be joking about Ben Shapiro as you do, because he's pretty low hanging fruit. And my friend always says, and he's the smart one,
He literally told people in like a flooding area to sell that they're idiots for not selling their homes. Who's going to buy those homes?
He also said you're stupid for not teaching your 4-year-old daughter more about the American flag when it has been just absolutely hijacked by hyper insanity. And so, you know what? No, Ben, that one's on you. Okay. You freaking facts don't care about your feelings, Ben, you dummy.
And then whoever edits his video edited little demon eyes on me at the end of my video. So stupid.
Jay's asking if it's on your TikTok page. Yes, it's on April's TikTok
page. It is. I
page.
put on my TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, which Instagram's different because I don't always post more political stuff on there. So
Same.
I learned some things about some people I know.
Did you? Yeah, that's what I found out. I posted a deal about the girl from Vanderbilt who kicked for a week for the football team or whatever, and I was blown away at the backlash on that. But I think all three of us posted about it. Obviously, Paul and I rushed to April's defense because it's the evangelicalish fam, and listen, we don't play no games. We quit school because of recess.
Just as a sidebar, we kind of brushed over it, but I'm also really disappointed at Skillet's front man for going after you and defending Modest is Hottest.
I was so bummed out.
And wasn't it Zoe Girl too?
Yes, it was.
I used to listen to Zoe Girl.
It was Zoe Girl and Skillet, which I mean, for anybody who grew up in the the aughts or whatever, like that, I mean that was Christian music. Like I was such a big fan of Skillet, and I even emailed him and I said, "Look, man, I was like, your music really like helped me out in some times when I was." Going through difficult seasons or whatever, like you guys, I mean, the Comatose album was powerful. Like, I mean, they put out really good, different music, right? Like it played mainstream and it was good music. It is good music. And so I just reached out and I was like, man, I think you kind of got this one wrong and you've kind of got me pegged wrong. Like, would you be open to a conversation? I haven't heard back yet, but I reached out and it was all in love. So, but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that John Cooper took shots at me for sure. That was whatever. But anyway, also April and I are not actually related, just in case anybody was wondering.
Yeah, you called me sister in your TikTok, and then everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know she was your sister."
Well, I mean, you basically are at this point. Like, I mean, like I feel like
we're sister and brother in Christ in
the Lord. Yeah.
Aww.
No. I mean,
friends are friends forever.
Oh, stop! No. Let the record show real quick, and we need to move on because we do have a really special guest tonight.
Yeah, we do.
They've said some really problematic things, and actually, in his sorry, I'm responding to this comment you just put up, Paul. Yeah. He said, he mentioned things about like Puritan culture, and he talked about. And he talked about like enjoying things that James White has said. And so all of that is pretty disgusting to me. But one thing I will say is that I am super grateful to land the plane here. Of course, we ran to April's defense because we care passionately about her and the things that she's doing on the platform, because we see the difference that it's making in the community. And I'm grateful for you guys doing the same for me as well. And, of course, we're going to do that for Paul any chance we get. Listen, I just want the record to show these two folks have walked me through crazy seasons in my life. We have tons of conversations behind the scenes, and I'm super grateful for them. And ever since this TikTok thing blew up, it's just nice to be connected with these awesome folks. And so what you see is what you get, guys. Like the evangelicalish crew, like we're the real deal. And so anyway,
like you said, we got to get to our guests, but I have to tell people, you guys do a lot of great videos, but the mega church song video, April, that was one of the all-time TikToks. If you have not seen April's mega church song,
the sound needs to blow up. Like we could use that sound for so many things.
I just made it a sound today, so we shall see. I wish it was longer because I'm like, oh, there's so many verses that I could do.
The Full House. Can we give you guys props for the collab video with the Full House theme song?
Yes, thank you.
April.
Right. We should also. We may have to pull that and show it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, we should do that at the end.
Yeah, so at the end.
For a hate comment of the week. Oh, we could just do a mutual hate comment of the week, right? Like since we've already
actually the guy that made that comment left a bunch of other ones. So I screenshotted some, so I could share some of those.
Yeah, I had to respond to him on the. I had to kind of go off script on the evangelicalish page because I was like, not today. Like, so anyway, but it was good. Yes. Thank you for the shout out on that. That would have been out about 4 weeks ago if it wasn't for one of us being really slow.
Which one was late with the video?
That would be that pastor from Oklahoma because he didn't know where to find the bacon that he tried to eat out of the package on that.
The beast.
Oh. Anyway.
Yeah.
It only took April texting you 27 times.
I know. I was super annoying about it, but I was like,
it's not annoying. It's just like, hey, guy from Oklahoma, can you just get your shit together and actually do your video? That'd be fantastic. Thanks.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being that person, we were supposed to only do 5 to 7 minutes, and Jenna's been waiting in the wings. So
indeed. All right. So let's run to a quick mid-roll. We got a great guest on the other side tonight. We're going to talk about mental health. And so a topic that we've been really excited about diving into. So without further ado, let's run to the mid-roll. We'll be back on the other side.
Oh, where's my sound? There it is.
Are you loving evangelicalish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @evangelicalish or subscribe on YouTube by searching evangelicalish. That's evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now back to the Evangelicalish podcast.
There we go.
I feel like last week you opened it with, where's my sound? That I should just like permanently put that in there.
We need to clip that out. I need that in my life for something. I don't know what, but my creative brain
where's
is like
my sound?
Yeah,
we can do
where's my sound?
Okay. Anyway.
Go April, go.
Okay. So tonight we have a really special guest. Her name is Jenna Kraft. She is at Gianu System on TikTok. That's GIANU System. I actually became friends with Jenna because her husband followed Paul and found out that they lived in the same town that I live in. And so we got connected. So I actually met them on TikTok because they live here. So I'm real life.
Cleveland, Tennessee is the center of the deconstructing Christian world.
It's also the center of racism. So
and like uber conservative.
Maybe the two coincide, right?
Yeah, there's a battle going on.
Spiritual warfare.
Yes. So Jenna, her pronouns are she, they, right? Yes. Oh, they're in her thing. So they are a system because they have D.I.D, which is dissociative identity disorder. Yes. Which is what they used to call multiple personality disorder. And I've learned so much from Jenna. Like I'm going to let her talk now, but so she's on to kind of talk to us about her story, her experience with, realizing that she had D.I.D, what that has done for her life and how that's affected her faith and how the church has responded. And then later on, we'll talk more about mental health in general. So Jenna, why don't you tell us a little bit for those that may not know what D.I.D is, because I certainly have very limited knowledge before I met you. Kind of explain what D.I.D is and tell us a little bit about your story.
And before I dive into that, literally, guys, what you see is what you get. I was on here earlier while we were prepping, and I was so excited meeting everyone to realize that they were exactly how they had seemed, because that's definitely not always the case. And I was nervous. I'm still nervous, but it's fine. And I'm just so grateful to be on here. So thank you. And hi, JC. I see you on the comments. My people showing up.
Love that.
There you go. I love it.
So I have dissociative identity disorder. It's been about 4 years since I've known, which you would think if you have multiple personalities, you would really know that. Except that it's a covert survival mechanism. And if it was really overt, it wouldn't be as good as a survival mechanism. Oh, thank you guys. My people. So one of the ways that I explain that, because it seems really far out there, and Paul had asked during early conversation, is that like schizophrenia? It's a very commonly confused thing with schizophrenia, because both of them share the trait of hearing voices. The difference being with schizophrenia, they're having a break from reality. They can't tell what's real, what's not, hearing things that aren't there. With D.I.D, there's not psychosis. That's why you can't treat it with medication, because they're grounded in reality. But what they're experiencing is a part of their brain that's been disconnected, a part of their mind that's been disconnected from the whole, so that they weren't aware that that part was there, let alone separated. And when they hear the thoughts from that part, it sounds so different and so distinct. And how I was explaining to everybody earlier, if y'all have kids, it's real easy to get it, because you've seen a toddler go from a complete meltdown, completely losing their mind, and all of a sudden it's like little switch flips and they're totally fine and they're happy and they're singing their song. And that's because according to the theory of structural dissociation, all of us experience a fragmented consciousness before a certain age, which is somewhere before 4 to 9, depending on the kid. So all of us experience our ego states separately. If repeated trauma happens before that age, the brain doesn't coalesce that experience of consciousness into a single unified stream. And it does that in order to keep the child relatively able to function. So maybe the part that needs caretaker has experienced this trauma, but if the brain can separate that from the other ego states, like play and socialize, well, then the child can go to school, they can interact with their peers and not be aware of the trauma that's happening at home. It's really a brilliant coping mechanism to keep the child relatively able to have a normal life. But as they grow and their brain grows, the parts that have been sectioned off also can grow. So they continue to develop, but these parts that are sectioned away develop with the life they've been informed by. So the part that goes to school isn't informed by the part that has experienced trauma. The part that's experienced trauma isn't informed by the rest of life that can be good and wholesome. And when the brain finally allows these parts to meet again, there can be a very large disconnect in how, oh my word, when I was first learning about my parts and getting to know them, there were big arguments about what was safe to do with people and what wasn't. And that's because they were informed by different experiences of our same life.
I mean, that's, if I can jump in, Jenna. So we would have called this demonic in the church.
Absolutely.
And maybe still do call it demonic in the church. I do think we're becoming more informed, but you have a positive light on this, and I find that interesting. So you see this as a positive and a part of maybe something amazing in our physiology and our mental abilities.
It's been so healing, actually, which it sounds funny to say, but my life has actually been so much better since I learned about my system. Hard, much harder, but so much fuller. There were experiences that I wasn't aware of, emotions I wasn't aware of. I'd never felt anger until I was 25. I never even felt the emotion of anger, because my brain was like, anger is dangerous. We're just gonna cut that off. And it wasn't until I was in a place of safety that I was allowed to begin to interact with these parts. Oh, and yes, the A system is super fun. I enjoy following them as well. So I've had people come on and talk on my TikTok saying, oh, well, you're demon possessed. It's definitely something that the church informs our thought process on. And before I knew that I was a system back when I was, conservative, Jenna. I thought that too, because that's just the mainstream thought of, oh, well, they've got multiple voices in their head. Those have to be demons. Not realizing that those are parts of myself that were neglected, that were scared, some that were still stuck in traumatic experiences. And I had, sorry, my earbuds. We were talking earlier. One of the experiences that I had before my diagnosis, I wasn't informed at all in the language of psychology or therapy with the disorder. So I didn't know the things I was experiencing. As a teenager, I would be experiencing emotional flashbacks, but we don't talk about flashbacks other than like in war movies where they're reliving the war. And I didn't know it could come as a wave of emotion that wasn't connected with a memory that I had access to. Just out of nowhere terror. And so I thought I was being demonically oppressed at that point. I thought a demon of like terror was attacking me. And I was so like, I was praying, I was rebuking it. And it was like, why isn't God answering me? Am I doing something wrong? Like, why won't this terror go away? And not realizing because I hadn't been able to be with myself during that experience and had never been able to process it.
I think something you said that really resonated with me was kind of comparing it to children in early developmental stages.
Yes.
Because I think about my my middle daughter who is adopted, and that one night we were serving chicken nuggets, which seems like no big deal, right? And this was shortly after they came into our home from foster care. And we were fostering to adopt at the time. And we put ketchup on her plate and she lost it. And what we figured out later on was through some support, that ketchup was a trigger. And it was the first time that I realized that, and it's so sad to say this as an adult, because we've been, and we'll get into this in the next segment, but we've been so misinformed by the church, because you mentioned several times, like you even thought yourself, oh, these are demons in my head, right? I looked at it and I was like, okay, this child is sweet and loving and not demon possessed. Something is seriously going on here. And she is triggered by the most random smell or taste or appearance. And it just made me realize, oh my goodness, why can't we look at this and say, anything can be a trigger, anything can be a trip, anything can be, whatever. And so, anyway, that resonates with me a ton, Jenna, and I'm super grateful for you sharing your story, not only with our crew, but just in general, because I think it's powerful.
Thank you. And yeah, I didn't realize that either, because there's such a stigma on therapy and on mental health that as an American culture, we don't know how to speak that language. We don't understand. And one of the things that I've learned is that if somebody has a response that seems blown out of proportion for the situation they're in, it's not. It's connected to an experience that they haven't been able to process. So all of that emotion is then brought into the current experience. So yeah, maybe ketchup shouldn't be a big deal, but when it's connected to an experience that's been traumatic and hasn't been processed, all of that experience is now happening again. And for me, it gives me permission. And we shouldn't need it to address our mental health. Like this isn't logical. It gives me permission to just say, this is what I'm experiencing, whether I understand it or not. I need to just be here with this emotion.
And it's drawn, like you said, it's drawn from that trauma. For her, it was drawn to a certain place in time. That smell, that appearance was drawn to a certain place in time that in her brain was a bad thing.
Yes.
And she had made a connection that this is what starts the bad thing. Right.
Exactly.
Or it's the
Jenna,
thing that trips your senses. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to, so and you can answer or tell us to shut up anything we ask, but is yours trauma related, did you say?
Is it related to?
I mean, did you have trauma in your life that is sort of the genesis of this for you, you believe?
Yes. So for D.I.D to develop, there has to be a couple key things. It has to be before the age that the brain coalesces that experience of consciousness. It has to be repeatable, and it has to be inescapable, at least according to the mind of the child. And the final one is attachment styles. There has to be an insecure attachment. So I don't know if you guys know about attachment styles. That's a whole really delicious dive. But anyway, so for any trauma that is repeated and that the child deems as inescapable, whether they could escape or not, the brain is like, okay, I need to make an escape. And we've been able to kind of trace back where the first memory I have where my memories are in third person, which is an indication of dissociation. Like, I remember the first time I asked my husband, I was like, are your memories in third person? Is it like you're watching yourself? Because I know that can't be how I remember it, because I was in the memory, but all my memories are like third person. And he was like, no. It's like, okay, so we don't talk about our own mental experience. So I didn't know that was abnormal. And so going back in therapy to find where my memories went from first person to third person, and it was a medical trauma the first time. And I tell people all the time, like, any trauma that is inescapable and repeated, even medical trauma, can cause this.
I'm just reading some of these comments, and you know, I look at the very last comment in the feed, you know, talking about that being a camp counselor, and that you know, a fellow counselor said, you know, people should overcome depression with prayer. Oh my gosh. Like oh my gosh.
There were several comments on our TikTok page too of people that had anxiety, depression, or schizophrenia was mentioned, and all of them said that they were told that they had demons. Jenna, I'm curious, how did you finally discover that you had D.I.D? Like, what kind of led to your diagnosis? And you were married when you got this diagnosis. So how did your husband respond too? Because that's a big undertaking.
It's a huge undertaking. So I knew I had childhood trauma. Like, I remembered a decent amount of it, but I was like, you know, I've done a lot of self-help work. I've read a lot of books, whatever. And I was in my mid-30s, and I had a major dissociative episode. I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know what dissociation was, which I can, you know, define that for y'all if you need. But I just knew that I went like numb and blank for several days. And my husband was really concerned. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I don't know. I thought I had healed, but I think I'm just really good at avoiding triggers, and that I need to go to counseling." So I was very functional in my everyday life. I started going to counseling, and the first thing we work on, and you'll work on with any really good therapist, is safety and stability. They make sure you are safe and stable in your current environment. And through that, I realized I wasn't safe to experience my own emotions. Like, they would overwhelm me and I would shut off. Like, my goal, I was like, oh man, Spock, I love that logic. And I didn't realize that emotionality is very crucial to not only the human experience, but human reasoning. So they helped me to be able to sit with an emotion. And about 9 months in, when I was able to do that, my parts started to show up. And I was very surprised.
Hello.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were mad.
They were big mad.
What was that like? I mean, can you tell us what that was like?
Absolutely. So, my husband had actually been coming to counseling. You asked about that as well. He had been coming to counseling with me from like my second or third session in, because I started having flashbacks, which I didn't realize what was going on. I just would get sucked into the memory. And they were like, "Do you think your husband could come in?" And so when I would just get too into the memory, he would just put his hand on my leg, and it was grounding, which is bringing yourself back into the present, being aware of what's happening in the present. And so that was like how I was able to first interact and work through emotions. And so he had been there with me and had learned with me the techniques for grounding, for sitting with an emotion, and accepting what you're going through. So I have the holidays are always extremely triggering. I have a lot of trauma around the holidays. And around that time, I started hearing a very angry, like teenage voice yelling at me. And I was trying to like be fine. Like my ignore it was my go-to.
Yeah.
And finally I couldn't ignore it. And so I was like, so Jonathan, there's this angry teenage girl yelling at me in my head and I'm scared and I don't know what to do. And he was like, have you tried asking her why she's mad? No,
Wow.
I'm trying to not do this. And that was exactly
Smart
what
husband.
needed
Wow.
to happen. Oh man, he's good. And so I asked why she was mad and began to open the dialogue. My next therapy appointment, I was like, so I'm hearing a voice.
So about that.
Right? And the therapist,
I hope it's okay that we're laughing with you.
Oh
with
no,
this.
like absolutely. I love D.I.D memes. Some people are like, this isn't a joking matter. I'm like, how else do you get through this? Like, if I can't make fun of my altars,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. So,
It's the best thing. Like, I mean, people don't get it. Like the people who are there, right? Like it's, it's like for me, like pastor memes are the funniest thing because, it's like pastors are idiots. Like that includes me, right? Like,
right.
so yeah, that's really funny.
So what did she say? What did the young girl say?
Oh, well, so I go in to tell my therapist and she says, is this an internal voice or an external? And I was like, oh, it's internal, but
it's definitely in here.
It's in here, but these aren't my thoughts. I've never thought these things. And she was like, well, this sounds like a progression toward healing, which was so helpful. And so what happened, the thing she was saying, when I was 12, I had several weeks where I was kind of plotting my undoing, where I would go, how I would do it. And at that point, one of my alters stepped in and locked away the part that was having these thoughts, because that's what the system is. It's there to help keep you alive and keep you safe. And sometimes they don't have the best methods, but they're doing it however they can. So that part was locked away at 12. And when I achievement unlocked, she was able to talk to me again. She was right at that point, but now we had the skills between us to process what she could not process at the time. So in listening to her and in listening to what she was upset about and the things that were like hurting her, we then went through the months-long process of like giving voice to that, acknowledging that, yes, this is horrible. All these things are terrible. And then her being allowed to heal. And it was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Now, you mentioned something about, and remind me, they're alts, right?
Alters. Yes.
Yeah, alters. Yeah. So you mentioned that some of those do not come from necessarily a place of trauma.
Correct.
Right. But kind of more of a place of protection and empowerment. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So I for sure have two that don't have any trauma. So there's Lil, and she's a child, so they call those littles, a child alter. But she's the me that had no experience of trauma. So she's absolutely confident in being loved. She loves to dress up and have fun and be around people. And she is a delight. It was amazing when I met her, getting to see her take on our life, because I have chronic illness and, mental illness and all of this stuff. And I feel like there's not a lot like that I can do and contribute to society, which is totally the productivity American ideals of what a person's worth are.
Say
totally
that.
bogus.
Say that.
Right? But she came to the front and she was like, wait, we're married? We have a puppy and a kitty. We're writers.
Aw.
Like, all of her childhood dreams had come. Like, she comes to the front. We're full grown with everything she'd ever wanted in life, and it was so healing to be able to look at my life from that perspective.
Hey,
So you go ahead, April.
Oh, I was just going to ask. You also mentioned we had a great pre-show meeting earlier.
So good.
But one thing that I think is super important for a lot of people to know, especially about D.I.D, is just how the system works to protect the person. And the church wants to cast these parts out of you because they're demonic or whatever. But you told us a story of how, you had thoughts of harming yourself, but that your altars would step in and save you. Can you tell us that?
Absolutely. So the system is made for protection, and sometimes the altars don't know the best way. But if you're in therapy, you're learning to work together, like they learn, they heal, they get better coping mechanisms as well. So I was telling them about my altar Anthony, which that one was the shock for me. I was not ready to meet my male gay altar. I hadn't met any male altars. I didn't know I had any, and that he identified as gay and attracted to men. I was like, I can't handle this. But
and likes different food than you, right?
Oh gosh. So I hate salmon. And there's been a time or two he's been in the front and ordered salmon, and then something triggers me out, and then I'm stuck eating the salmon. And I hate it. Like, absolutely hate it. But so we talk about how the church affects this sort of thing. Because I grew up in purity culture, having any kind of sexual feeling was considered sinful, right? Like, no. And going from an abusive situation into the conservative evangelical church made sense to my trauma brain at a deep level. Like, God has rules. If you break these rules, God will be wrathful and punish you. And so my brain was already primed to be like, okay, so we have to follow God's rules exactly, or it's very unsafe. So when I became a teenager and started feeling attraction, my brain was like, oh, no. And so first, because my brain deemed it unsafe to feel attraction toward men because men are unsafe as a woman, it stuffed that into everyone has gender on a spectrum. We all have parts of ourselves that are more masculine and more feminine. So my brain stuffed that into masculine part of me and shoved it down in the basement. Like, nope, we do not feel attraction, and we do not feel it as a female. No.
Because that is how the church sells sexuality. It's so divided and so separated. Wow. That's really, sorry. Yeah.
Oh no. But the thing about Anthony is he's one of the altars that doesn't have trauma. So he was created because, like, the trauma of, oh no, purity culture, I can't feel these. But when he comes to the front, he has the freedom to feel attraction and not feel guilt. Like, it's amazing. But I was recently in a bad place, and as an adult, I've never had them have to come and rescue me until recently. And just a whole bunch of stuff all snowballed at once. And I was in the grocery store and I was feeling like shit. I was like, I'm the worst, and I'm not going to be able to do anything with my life that's worthwhile. And all of a sudden, Anthony switches out, and I went from feeling like I was shit to Anthony being like, oh no, we are the shit. Any of these people were walking by, any of these people would be privileged to have you give them some of your time. And once again, being able to see it from another perspective was so helpful, and me being able to de-escalate, to be able to look at my situation differently. And I gotta say, the confidence, if I could have that confidence all the time. The absolute and fantastic.
And something that we were talking about pre-show meeting, and I told you guys I would say this during this show, and because I definitely think it's true, was the fact that you talk about these, definitely a couple of different different personalities that'll come to the front
Mhm.
and kind of give you peace and give you
Yes.
that refocus. And even in this situation, you're talking about like save you.
Yes, very much so.
But the church would say, the evangelical church would say, these things are demons. We must cast them out.
Mhm.
And so to me earlier, we were kind of joking around about like that whole process with the evangelical church. And I said, it's like Civil War surgery. It's like before we really kind of thought through the way like modern medicine should work. And it was like, oh, you have this paper cut. Well, let us amputate your arm,
Mhm.
and that's the way I see the evangelical church treating mental health and probably namely, especially Jenna, the path that you have walked, because it's like, we need to cut these things out of you. And it's like, at what point is the evangelical church going to progress and going to mature into realizing that this could be good and protective, and we can offer safety in these things and just meet people right where they're at and go, you're not bad. It's just who you are.
Yeah.
And, but unfortunately we're still, the evangelical church is still in the business of amputating when they don't understand.
Well, and Jenna,
and that's a problem.
If we could cast Anthony out of you in the name of Jesus, what would that do to you?
Oh, so I've had I've had a lot of people on my channel have had exorcisms performed on them, which one, it doesn't work because this is a part of your brain. It's a part of your personality. It's just not a part that you were able to be connected with because of trauma. But
the exorcism probably is trauma in and of itself.
That's exactly what happens. They're then further traumatized, and then those altars are further traumatized. So Anthony, not having trauma, then could have a traumatic experience and lose that beautiful confidence because of going through that. And a lot of people, a lot of systems, which is what people with D.I.D often refer to themselves are, because system of personalities. A lot of systems have had very negative experience at the hands of the church. Like most of them just leave. I know there's a few that are still involved with the church, but it's something that is so triggering, because exorcisms, because them saying, oh, what you're experiencing is demonic. And because those that stay usually can't be known. Like, it's like being gay in the church. Like, yeah, you can be that, but can you be that openly? Because
no,
the church doesn't understand, they don't accept, and they treat you very differently.
Well, and that's the issue, right? Is the only folks in our culture who have never felt unsafe in the American evangelical church is white dudes.
Yes.
Like, that's it. Everybody else has been oppressed by the American evangelical church. Women, people of color, people with mental health concerns. I mean, you go down the list, and it's everybody but white people, white men. Everybody but white men.
Straight white men.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the LGBTQ plus community has also been oppressed by the church. Yes. Straight white landowner men, basically, right?
Yes.
You can't even be a part of like the lower class and be respected by the American evangelical church. So it's like middle class up, white dudes up, white straight men up, middle class. Like, I mean, it's so ridiculous. And the evangelical church is like shocked that people are leaving in droves, and they wonder why less than 50% are attending. And it's, listen, welcome to the jungle, guys. Like you just pushed everybody out.
Yeah.
So true. Real quick, before we go to a quick mid-roll, and then we'll come back and talk a little more mental health. But Kristen in the chat wants to know if you know when an altar comes to the front. And I think everyone would also like to know, how many altars do you have?
Absolutely. So I say we have about 10, because fusion can happen where altars can come together, but it's not necessarily a permanent practice. It's like the brain learning a second language. So people who learn a second language in times of stress, they revert back to their primary language. which is exactly what the brain does. So alters confuse, but then in times of stress and trauma, usually they come back out because this is what the brain knows for stress and trauma. So that's why I say I have about 10, because it just kind of depends where everybody's at.
And do you know when one, like, do you know who's fronting? Are you aware of when they? Yeah.
Usually there's sometimes, oh, and that's actually my shirt here. Lindy Spaghetti. That's my merch.
Nope, hang on a second. Show it again.
Lindy Spaghetti. So
is that in your bio? Hang on. Quick plug, because we got to get it in. Can people get that and link in your bio?
Absolutely. On YouTube, on TikTok, it's in my bio. I've got a fun merch store. So my child alter Lil was talking about how she was blindy spaghetti with Jenna, and the people were like, "That's fantastic. We need it on a shirt," because that's sometimes it's full on one alter, but as you're learning and breaking down the barriers that the brain put into place for safety, like the traits can cross and you're just like, I'm not entirely sure who's in the front. That's what we call blindy spaghetti. But
is it possible? Sorry. I just have to ask this question. Is it possible that there is more than one at the front at a time? Just for clarification.
Yeah. So that is called, there's several different kind of varieties of that. So you have co-fronting, which is where two alters are fronting at the same time. And fronting is being in control of the body. When they co-front, that is a very weird feeling, because at any moment, if I was co-fronting with Anthony, is usually who it happened with, like I could be going to do something and Anthony's like, "Oh, no, honey, we are not wearing that," is usually his statement. We're not wearing that. Then there is co-consciousness, which is where one is in the front, but there are others who are aware. So I could be like, well, right now I'm talking to you guys as Jenna, the host, like, welcome to my system. I'm the host. Let me introduce you. But because I've been talking about Lil, she is aware and paying attention. She's co-conscious. Switching is when we kind of pass the baton for who's in the front. Triggers can cause a switch very quickly. If there's something that makes me angry because I don't handle anger well yet, I'm still learning. I'm in therapy. Jennifer Adriana, will usually come to the front with all of her badassery and handle the problem. And she's fantastic. She doesn't get like, I'm trying to compare her like to somebody in media. She's just very like, no, this is how it is. This is what's happening. We will not accept this behavior to be done to us. She's fantastic.
Like
everyone needs a J.A. No, she's not a douche about it.
We wanted to hit a quick break here and then just come back and how can the church handle this well compared to what they've done? We'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah. Are you loving Evangelicalish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelicalish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelicalish. That's evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now back to the Evangelicalish podcast.
Yeah, so we had what was called a sozo ministry in our church, and which was an inner healing ministry, and there was a big controversy about this exact issue of there was a ministry we worked with that they would say they called it guardians, and they were saying in a training, like, you don't take somebody's guardian away until they're ready to let it go. And that was we had much discussion about, do you allow this to stay or not? You had talked about your little one having healing. So what does healing look like in the church for somebody that's D.I.D, Jenna? How do we very empathetically and progressively and with healing in mind work with this?
I think the very first step, which is the first step in healing in a lot of areas in our culture right now, is believing people when they tell us what's going on without judgment. Just when they tell you this is happening, I'm experiencing this, just believe them. And I'm here for you. I might not know what to do, but if you know how I can help, just let me know. Yeah.
So do you feel like integration of these parts at some point would be something you would desire, or do you feel okay as you are?
My husband and I have talked about this extensively because so healing can come in two ways for multiples. There can be fusion, then they call it final fusion when all of the parts come together, and functional multiplicity. So I'm at a point of functional multiplicity right now. My parts and I have met each other. We get along. We listen to each other's concerns about the life that we're sharing together. And I, being like, I would love that confidence. Like, I look at fusion and go, that would be nice. And my husband goes, I would miss everybody. Please don't And so our goal is whatever health looks like. Some people really go like, I'm going for fusion, or I'm going for functional multiplicity. And I'm like, whatever my brain does, whatever our path toward health, wherever that takes us, that's where we go.
I just have to say too, I've also met Jonathan, her husband, and he's great. But I just think it is so beautiful how, because you've told us before that he can recognize who's fronting without you telling him.
Dang.
And I think, didn't you say that he like took Anthony out on a date one night? Like, I love that.
That's dope.
I wish I had a picture. And yes, Laura, he shouldn't exist. Like, I've met other men and I'm like, why? How do you exist? Like, I don't understand it. He is as close to perfect as I think you can get and be human. He does have faults. He gets sullen, like he gets stressed, like, but sullen and stressed I can take. For a man who is absolutely like, well, have you asked her why she's mad? Oh, hey, he likes to get dressed up and go out. Let's do that. And he's,
oh my gosh,
absolutely every part that he's met, and he's an Enneagram 7. If anyone, like, if that gives you a B, like, for him, this has been an adventure. He told me, like, who else has been married for 15 years and then meets parts of their spouse they didn't know, learns things about, hears stories they've never heard before. He was like, there's just more of you to love now.
Oh,
wow.
Right?
That's great.
That's beautiful.
We need the church to be like Jonathan.
Yes,
There's more
that's
of you to love.
100% what the church needs to do. 100%.
And I want to reemphasize this point because I think it's really important. So for you, you can continue to be D.I.D, have these parts, and feel like you are living the full life that Jesus came to bring. You are what God created you to be in all the fullness of the purpose of life God has for you.
Absolutely. And my brain is just neurodivergent. It did something other brains don't do to keep me from trauma. It will always be neurodivergent from here out. But that doesn't have to be unhealthy. Those things aren't synonyms, neurodivergent and unhealthy. It's just my experience of consciousness is different, but I still experience the full range of what other people do. It's just in a different way.
I feel like if the church could have taken the time to actually do studies on mental health, like, I think D.I.D speaks so much greater to God's design and his majesty, the fact that our brains as kids can split off and fragment like that to protect us, you know, where otherwise, like, a kid could not survive immense trauma.
Fearfully and wonderfully made. Yeah.
But that our brains could do that. And then the church took what is supposed to be a safety mechanism put there by God and demonized it.
Wow.
And how many lives have been lost due to suicide or people put in mental institutions being told that they're crazy, when in reality, they just needed help.
Yes.
They just needed someone to listen to them.
Well,
So
to
good.
accept what they were going through and help them to learn to accept it. Absolutely.
and what's crazy for me is I can remember. So this is gonna sound so wild. Okay, I can remember Okay. I can imagine, I can remember two, like what we called imaginary friends as kids, right? Like, and I can remember their names, Mark Ventura and Javon Mason. Like that was their names. Like for real, swear to God, like that was their names. And like, I remember like after having stress, like every other little boy in America, right? Like I would go out and play football by myself, like in the yard, or whatever, like throw the ball to yourself and you'd run and like catch it underneath, whatever. But like those were the guys I played with, and I feel like if I had ever said that out loud, people would be like, oh my gosh, you got these demons or whatever. And it's such a good point. It's like, have we not only told people that their safety mechanisms and their coping mechanisms are bad, but that they are no longer allowed to enjoy who they are as a person? That's scary. And we've taken your imagination away as well. And that's, I don't know. I'm just kind of sorry if that's like crass, and like I'm processing this in real time. To be
honest. It's interesting.
And go ahead.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Oh, you go, Jenna.
I was going to say my son at 4 had several imaginary friends, and he played with them all the time. And I'm like, with how I view that now, I'm like, that's before the age that the brain does that coalescing of consciousness. And maybe that's just his brain before fitting it all together, because the alters often come with their own names and identities that like, they've been like, my name's this. How did you get this name?
Wow.
I was going to throw in this. Do you have something you want to say, April? I was going to throw in one of the questions from the chat.
I was just going to say, just on talking about the church, one of the problems is obviously that they demonize it. But I think the problem within the evangelical church is there's a lack of authenticity and this pressure to appear like you have everything together. There's this pressure to not have mental issues, because if you have a mental issue, that says something about your Christianity or your lack of faith, or like it's somehow, if you admit that you have some kind of mental illness, it somehow makes you lesser of a person in the church. And I remember at the old church that we used to work at, it was a pretty large church. My husband did a testimony video for a guy who was healed, quote unquote, healed from PTSD. And since I've been making TikToks, that guy who I had forgotten about messaged me and said, hey, I'm the guy that you guys did the video on who had PTSD. And I just want to let you know, like, I ended up not being healed. Like I thought I was healed for several months, but then he suddenly had this added pressure, because that was a 4,000 member church that his testimony blasted to. He had this added pressure to not have relapses and like whatever PTSD was having. Then he was suddenly forced to deal with it silently because he had been healed. He had to keep up that persona.
Absolutely. Wow. And then he can't get help. And this is how, like you were talking about, this is how people end up committing suicide, because then they don't have they don't feel like they can reach out, because, well, if they had enough faith, maybe then their healing would have stuck. This is such a common thing, because when we're sick physically and we go up to get healed, like it's pretty obvious we didn't get healed. But if we go up to get healed and where we need help is our brain, which, by the way, when they say it's all in your head, like, oh, you mean the thing that runs everything?
Yeah.
Yes, that is what is broken. It runs everything.
Absolutely.
You mean the CPU unit for this entire process? Yes, it is in my head.
I think this is a fascinating question that Joy has here. Do your alters have connection to God similar to Jenna?
So this was a fascinating experience for me. So I have people with D.I.D, one of the components is amnesic barrier, so some memory issues. So I have that with a couple alters, but most of them, I remember everything that happens while they're out. And so experiencing their experience with God was it just expanded my view. So God really met each part where they were. Some of them, I think they all kind of believed in God, because we have had mystical experiences that just there's no explanation for. And Also, that's one thing that for us was hard about being open to our Christian friends about our disorder is because, well, are they going to believe us when we tell them, well, God showed me this, God spoke to me, because, well, your altars speak to you as well. Well, yes, they do. Absolutely. I listen to them too. But so Anthony, we were still going to church pre-pandemic, all this was like, I think I'd like to go to church. And I was like, okay. And is that okay? Like, can I go to church? Because when he's in the front, he fully identifies as gay. So like, it doesn't matter that he's in this body. Like, is he welcome in church as himself? And I was like, yeah, you can go to church. And so he went to church, and I recall that the experience, like the pastor was talking, and Anthony was having his whole experience with God, like separate. The pastor said something, and it just like snowballed, segued. And being the only one of us that doesn't have a problem and issue with men, it cracked me up because God has come as, Father God to the most wounded of us who have father issues. To Anthony, he came as mother. He came wrapped in the feminine. And I am used to experiencing God. And I didn't think of masculine energy versus feminine energy until Anthony has this experience where God is like, come here, baby. Let me hold you. Like this mama love experience. And I think that's when we started being like, oh no, we're using some they, them pronouns from God for here on out. But we've each had our own experience with the divine.
And we kind of touched on this last week a little bit, just from a listener question, but
can I just say real quickly, I have chills from that, by the way, Jenna.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
And one thing I'll say along with that is the fact that, that American evangelicalism and American culture as a whole probably has gotten so specific to gender roles that, men and fathers act like this, women and mothers act like that. And we try to fit God inside of this American idealistic leave it to Beaver box. And it just doesn't work like that God and his who he is. And for me, like you said, like for so long, I've just used, male pronouns for God, but who he is far exceeds our understanding of fatherhood or him or anything else, that he can fill in those gaps and be so much more. We are the ones who have drawn hard lines in the sand. And that is a problem with the American evangelical church, is they said fathers do this, mothers do that. How about fathers just do what they're good at and mothers just do what they're good at, and God is good at all of it because he's God.
I just want to say too, Jenna, like that gave me chills as well, because I was just thinking how wrong the church has had it, that they would stigmatize you or anyone with D.I.D or mental illness as having something wrong with them. But God has met your individual parts. And he went and met Anthony, who is a gay man in a female body, and that would explode the minds of the Ben Shapiros.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter
don't care
to
about
God.
the feelings,
like,
Ben.
Yeah. But like that, how beautiful, like that is just, God is so much bigger than the freaking box that the evangelical church, maybe just the church in general, has put him in.
Yes. And God can meet us exactly where we're at. That's where he met Anthony. J.A., who I was saying deals with anger. She was going on an internal rant. Like she was stuck in a cycle, as we all do, that she couldn't think her way out of because she didn't have access to like information I had, for her experiences. And like God just reached in to her circle and said, what about this? Pulled her to a dead stop, like blink, blink. And she wasn't praying, like she was ranting, brushing our teeth, ranting in her mind about it. And then she was like, wait, so you have a point, but you're real? And if you're real, why are you intervening here and not on hunger and not on injustice? And so her relationship with God is very like, it's still anger based. Like she gets mad and she yells at God. God doesn't care. God is big enough to handle our anger, our questions. That doesn't intimidate them at all. Like that's exactly where they met her, and it wasn't a problem. It's still not.
Gosh, that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing this story. And I think if anybody needs some Bible underneath this, I mean, I really believe when the Bible says God won't tempt us beyond anything that we can stand up under. You know, to me, if our physiology needs to provide this way of protecting us, physiology, mentally, and spiritually, I think God's going to say, I'm not going to take that tool from you. And I, you know, I felt this in my own life once at a time of just God sort of saying, like, you've put this shellac around your heart to protect yourself, Paul, and I let you do it because that's the only tool you had to protect yourself. But now we're going to start to do some heart work because you can do it now. And so that's what I love about you saying, hey, if this is it, I'm getting healthy and the parts are getting healthy, beautiful. That's the life God has for me. And if there is some more of the fusion, I think you said, that's beautiful too. And I think that's who God is. That is who God is. And just like Gabriel said, to meet Anthony just as he is, and all of you as they are, I just love this. That's a God I can love and worship every single day.
Yeah. I really think when Jesus was like, you know, whoever basically hurts these little ones, leads them astray, I think that really applies to mental health spaces. These are the most vulnerable. They have been so hurt and so crushed. And I can't even invite these people to church. Like they have been, because the church is only going to wound them more. And I think it's better that they would have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown into the ocean than what they're doing to these people in mental health spaces.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a mic drop. End of sermon right there. Beautiful.
I think that's a good spot to to land this segment for sure.
Before we move into the next segment, Jenna, I just want to thank you for sharing your story and for everything that you do on TikTok. I've learned so much. And shameless plug, she's also an author, and she wrote a cool vampire story called The Survivors.
I did.
Good book.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, April.
No, you go. I'm good.
I was just going to say, the people in the comments who are saying this is church, I think, yeah. I think I have a sense of God's presence in this tonight. And so, amen. This is church.
There it is.
Very nice.
So do we want to end on a fun hate comment note?
Every week, man. Every week. All right. So, as we always end the show, we're going to talk about hate comments of the week, but I have a quick curveball for all of you.
Oh, no.
All three of you. So, I do have a couple of words that I want you to give some word association to.
Oh, we're doing a game
about that. Just a quick one, not like a full blown, but I've just got a couple of words, and I want to hear your. Is everybody good with that? I guess I should take a vote.
Oh yeah,
like, is that okay?
I love to play.
We did not plan this in the pre-show, but
No, we did not plan this. This is definitely curveball. I'm just like, we're having a good time. Like,
what do we do? You say a word, and then we just say the first thing that comes to our head.
I'm going to give you a word. You say the first thing that comes to your head, and just be honest in it. And you know, I think it'll be fun. Okay. So, all right. So because of the way my screen is set up, I don't know if this is everybody's, but I'm going to go Jenna, Paul, April. Okay.
Okay.
And so probably just do a couple of words for each of you, and yeah, should be super fun.
Okay.
All right. You ready? All right, Jenna. The first word is crazy.
That lady. It's honestly my favorite thing. I tell my husband all the time, I'm crazy, but oh man, did you see her? She crazy.
Paul, the first word is shadow band.
Swear word comes to mind. Fucking TikTok. That's what comes to mind for me.
April, the first one. I am so excited about this. Oh, I feel good about it. I knew I was going to get y'all tonight. All right. I feel like I've got one coming though now.
I'm nervous.
April, the first word is Shapiro.
Oh gosh, I can't say the word that came to my head.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I just dropped an F-bomb. So
Okay, Mom, if you're listening, stop. Just don't. I mean, if I'm being honest, the first word that came to my head was, "Oh, I'm like sweating."
You can do it.
Fucker.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, Mom.
One more for the. That's really good. Somebody also put in the chat, crazy equals Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is 100% right.
So true.
I was hoping when I said crazy, Jenna was gonna say evangelicals. Anyway,
Yes.
I love that. They like to call everybody else crazy, but really they're the crazy ones. All right, Jenna, and I, just try to keep it, kind of lighthearted for each one of your veins that you run in, of course. Jenna, I want to throw you the next one. The next one is Anthony.
A riot.
Riot.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Paul, your next word is conservative.
Formerly me. Maybe that's been there, done that. How about that? Danger to the country, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. April, your last one is going to be a little bit more generic, kind of consisting of all of us. Your word is deconstructing.
Fun.
Yes. Good. That was super fun. I wrote that up because I thought it would be super fun to kind of hear you guys bust down some stereotypes, like, just kind of take it head on. And I think it's good because
that would be fun. Next time, let's tell us next time so we can pick some words for you.
I got one for the comments because they're all having fun. I've been watching them. All right, everybody in the comments, here's your word, evangelicalish.
Oh, nice.
Good one.
I like it. Can I start off the hate comments of the week, though?
Yes, go ahead.
Here you go.
Oh, gosh.
Definitely
Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
My fur-girl just came up to me and asked if she could play with my Dumbo Trump flag. And I said, my Dumbo Trump flag? I don't have one of those. And yes, she calls him Dumbo. I just never corrected her. And she goes, yeah, you do.
Look at his face.
Freaking smug.
And I feel like it's kind of profound. Did he ruin the flag for anybody else?
Maybe you should have exposed her to the American flag before Donald Trump did. That would have been your solution right there. Maybe the reason that she associates the flag with Trump is because you never taught her what an American flag was. And that one's on you. That one's on you.
DJ Will Robinson.
And that one's on you.
Let me start talking about that when American flag was for Trump was.
You got to make it really, really fast. I'm really, really smart.
But guess what? That constipated face, that one's on you. All that poop you got in your sphincter, that one's on you. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Does he not look constipated 24/7?
He was just like, okay, if y'all want to know what the first 8 minutes was, because I had to sit through it, it was mostly people talking about pronouns and trans issues, and he was just railing against gender, like just super hateful and nasty. So.
Well, but we talked about that pre-show. That's his thing. Like he just about got beat to death. Who was it? It was I want to say Dr. Oz. That is not right. Somebody other than anyway. He was on a show, on a network show, talking with several folks, and one of those was a transgender woman who he kept calling him intentionally. Just badger.
He's awful.
And they attacked him.
So she put so I think she was like either like formerly like a oh my gosh probably like a special operations person or something like that. Anyway, so she put her hand on the back of his neck and said, if you do that again, you're leaving in an ambulance.
Didn't we do that a couple of weeks ago? Like whose face you most want to punch in the world?
It's definitely been Shapiro now.
He's right there. That's
he's up there.
No, he just hopped Tom Cotton for me. Yeah.
Hey, somebody was just asking for our new promo video. So let's show that.
Yes, let's do that.
Here it is. Oh, wait, let me get sound. Whoops. Here we go. Well done. April put that together. It's brilliant.
Someone, I don't know who this person is. They have like, I think they do like a fake persona as like a demon because they were wearing horns or whatever. It was some demon name. It was like demons react to finally are watching his favorite sitcom and duetted our video because we were the beast, the false prophet, the antichrist. I thought it was pretty funny.
It's just so dumb. And then that guy gets on like after we respond to his comment with that, like 6 years later, because Jeremy can't get his crap together. We respond to him. And then what did he say that was just so obnoxious?
He said a lot of things, but here's one of the things. Because I screenshotted one. He goes, "Oh, these people are children of the devil, bound for hell. They don't know anything about the Bible."
Yeah, we don't know anything.
Come on. And we were talking this morning, like I have been called Jezebel recently. And so we appreciate that
progressive
Christian, conservative Christians are becoming non-binary.
It's like conservatives like Candace Owens posted about like, well, then why are, these other meds like for diabetes and stuff so expensive? We should just be giving those away for free. And I was like, I think you're onto something there, Candace. Keep trucking.
Yeah,
absolutely. We should make a stink about it.
Oh, and that's like the vid. I haven't done the one that you guys have done yet about Tucker Carlson saying, "Hey, why don't we charge business a COVID fee?" And it's like, yeah, great idea, Tucker. Way to go.
Yeah, no, Tucker. My favorite thing that just recently came out is that I guess, somebody in Fox News leaked the fact that like they're all vaccinated.
Oh, yeah.
Like Tucker Carlson and the whole nine. Everybody on Fox and Friends, they're all vaccinated, which is fantastic to hear because they're the ones talking about, keep your freedom, don't get your vaccination. Oh, I see you guys took care of yourselves first. But
so then stupid.
Okay, and you talk about conservatives and crazy, that Trump in the same speech would say, I deserve all the credit for the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
name it
take
after
it.
Me.
Yeah, name it after me, but don't take it. Yeah.
So stupid.
Yeah.
I just found out that that Cleveland, where we live, Jenna, is only 30% vaccinated. So we'll probably be shutting down soon because this area, although we have a lot of deconstructionists here, we are very much outnumbered.
It's very
by
divided.
the idiots. Yeah.
It's very divided.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's out here in California, and I'm in the very conservative Bible Belt of California, but we're seeing a lot of masks. Now, my daughter lives in LA County, and they have now put a mask mandate back in place. But I was out today, and I saw a lot of masks out. And so I think people are
coming back,
concerned about the variants and things. So,
oh, yeah, I'm fully vaccinated and also going out with my mask on because I am not playing with that Delta variant.
Yeah. So do we want to do hate comments? Jenna, do you have a hate comment? Do you want to start us off?
They did not. Hold on. Sorry. Your brother just said something about that Fox News gave every vaccinated employee a COVID clearance card.
Oh my gosh.
And they're on there complaining about like, oh, how dare they give us a vaccination passport.
I mean, isn't it so much the way though, that they would get the vaccine, have the cards and tell everybody else to not? I mean, that is so typical.
Because that's upper class white dude. That's what that is. It just reeks of privilege.
Bougie living right there.
You smell that bouginess.
Yeah.
It smells like privilege.
It smells of white privilege, white male privilege.
Yeah.
God. I hate being a white man.
Speaking of hate, Jenna.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll go for the easy reach, which is y'all are probably demon possessed. Oh, thanks. I haven't heard that one before.
Oh, you still get comments about you being demon possessed.
Oh, yeah. And then I usually respond like with an explanation video. Last time I responded like explaining D.I.D and how saying it was demon possession is very harmful. The woman like railed at me like a 5-comment thread and then blocked me.
Oh my goodness. Didn't you say one of them responded to that they had a relative that had D.I.D that ended up committing suicide, that blamed the suicide on her demon?
She said that her aunt had this, that she had D.I.D and that it was demon possession and that she ended up committing suicide. And I was like, that's because she couldn't go anywhere for help because she thought it was demon possession. You guys told her she had demons, so she can't go to the church. She can't go to God. She can't go to her family. Like, what did you think was going to be the outcome of that belief?
That's so terrible. That just makes you wonder how many other souls have gone that way because people just didn't believe them.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Paul, do you want to do your hate comment?
You know, I'm still looking for a good one. Somebody else want to go? I mean, it's all the same stuff. Yeah,
they're getting kind of repetitive. But
it is. It's starting to be the same stuff over and over.
Unless April, you have one other than Ben Shapiro, because my hate comment is going to be the entire podcast from Zoe Girl and Skillet. So.
Well, I had a bunch. I had not a ton, but I did have about a dozen people come from the Ben Shapiro thing. So this one guy commented multiple comments on several different videos, and he was triggered. And his first one started with, "I'm just here after Ben Shapiro roasted you on a legitimate platform, aka YouTube." And then he said, "Ben's successful and you're on TikTok, crying laughing face, Trump 2024. And then on another video, he said, "Don't worry, everyone. This woman is representing Christ as well as Joe Biden represents America."
Did he wait?
Burn.
He spelled it Biden, Bidden. So
I was like, how do you even misspell that? It's like the most.
And then the last, your faith is so strong it rivals Biden's. And Shapiro shut down your argument. No wonder you're a single mom.
No wonder. No wonder.
I'm not a
That's
single mom.
Classic.
Beecher. Beecher's like, I added to this.
See, like, take 2 seconds. You could see that I have a husband. Maybe he's a few videos back. He's been gone. So,
I think I texted you guys today. I got a message from a guy that it's totally the opposite of the hate one, and he said he joined TikTok kicking and screaming because he felt like he had to promote his business. He does pottery. And so he said, I loathe social media, but now I know why I came to TikTok. It was to find the three of you guys, to find evangelicalish. And he just went on to say that he and his wife now feel like they're not alone. They have a community, and just reading that makes all the hate comments in the world worth it, to know that somebody has been encouraged by what we do.
I told somebody this past week exactly that, Paul. We face a lot going on. I have personally, I've shared this with you guys, like just privately, had a lot of backlash in my personal life from TikTok, especially here in Oklahoma, not just with my church, but other things going on in my world, my day job. And, but it costs what it costs, because when Jenna said word association, evangelicalish, so many people said love, community, church. And, to fill in that gap, it just costs what it costs. And that means the hate comments, that means the trolls, that means I had somebody like, and I know this for a fact, like they didn't just pull this picture out of nowhere, like, because we recently painted our entire exterior of our house. Somebody literally messaged me on Instagram a picture of the front of my house and said, I'm going to come kill your kids.
Oh my gosh.
And so anyway, I mean, obviously we dealt with that, but so when I had friends who were like, dude, you don't have to keep doing this. Like it's, you could just not post and you could just walk away. It costs what it costs because the restoration of people who have been hurt and disenfranchised and broken by the evangelical church and by Christianity in America, until every voice matters and until every people group has a seat at the table and until we have made the wrongs right and the injustices just, like, we just have to keep speaking. And so that means we're going to take the hate comments. That means we're going to take the public criticism. That means that, we're going to get called out by Ben Shapiro and John Cooper and whoever else. I mean, all kidding aside, it's going to happen. When we find ourselves on the front lines, adding to the national narrative as we have as evangelicalists, when we're adding to the national conversation, there will be scrutiny and pushback. And guess what? Keep coming, because we're a strong tribe, and don't trip, because we got a fan behind us, and it's worth it. Every second is worth it, and it costs what it costs.
I like Stephanie's word association on evangelicalish. Fucking amazing. So.
Love it.
Amen, Stephanie.
That's fantastic.
That is pretty great. And we need to make plans to do some kind of, like, I don't know if you listen to Literature's podcast, but they had a gathering pre-pandemic. So maybe we can do some kind of in-person thing at some point, which we've talked about. We just gotta plan it, make it happen.
It's time. All right. We should land the plane, which we always have trouble doing because we just have so much fun with everybody. So,
that's part of the week.
Well, thanks everybody. Jenna, what a privilege and joy to have you here. I think everybody really learned something amazing tonight. So thank you.
Man.
Yeah, honored to be with you. It was fun too.
All right, Jeremy, what do you say to take us out?
Well, you guys, we love you. We're grateful for you. And we are so excited that you're a part of this journey with us. We're grateful for the evangelicalish community. We're thankful for Jenna for joining us tonight. Paul and April. I'm Jeremy. Until next week, love God and people passionately, no strings attached. We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.